I just watched a video of this lady complaining about this old woman and giving them money afterwards after they already counted everything out and blah 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 blah, and it just reminded me of having to freaking work and fast food. And there was this old man, he came in, he didn't say a damn thing to me. He said nothing. He didn't look at me, he didn't do nothing, but he had a whole lot of stuff and he put it down and I scanned it and I put it in and then blah 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 blah, did all that and gave me the money. And then while I was checking him out, he was being ass the entire time, just being hateful, freaking shoving stuff around and being rude. And then when I told him what his price was, he was being real slow about it and just being freaking hateful and but then I gave him his change back. And old fucking people don't like to take receipts. I don't know what the big deal is about. Just take the damn receipt and throw it away. It's not that big of a deal. Don't tell me, I didn't want that. You're gonna have to take it back. It's already in your fucking hand. Just use your own old ass legs and go to the trash can and throw it away. Oh my god. That wasn't what I was about to get mad about. But I freaking hand him his cash and his coins on top of his receipt, and he just removes his hand from underneath it and fucking lets it all fall on the counter, and he's like, you gonna just throw the fucking change at me, bitch? And then I'm like, I just walk away. And I'm so mad. I'm so mad. Woo! I'm so mad. I ain't got no eyebrows. I gotta put on some damn eyebrows so we can start going off about how mad I am. Let me just go ahead. Okay, now you can see how mad I'm about to get when I'm telling fucking stories and stuff. Ah! You're gonna have to sit there because I can't. I had to work at this ice cream shop, and I started working there when I was like turning 18. And it's the first actual like W9, W2, W4, whatever the hell job that I got, because all my other ones was contracting and roofing and other things that I didn't get taxes on because I never made enough. Get these up with. So I got there, and I am a damn good worker. I am such a good worker. I'm gonna pat myself on the back because it don't ever get shown over it, because I'm like, I'm a good worker. I'm nice. I don't care. I was very kiss buddy and stuff. And I would just be trying my hardest to avoid being in trouble at all, ever. Because I'm like, I just want my money. I just want to get paid and do my job and go home and not have to be here anymore. Look at this. You're gonna get a whole earful. Get ready. Where's my stand? It's freaking cold in here. It's cold. There it is. Okay. Oh, it's freezing. I'm not even gonna remember everything, but it's annoying. This is the thing that I'm like, I'm holding it. If I let it out, it's gonna come back to haunt me. Because I'm like, well, what if I really need a job and I need to go back and go deal with that? I don't want to have to go back there and do that. I have a job that's okay. I just need more jobs, and I need my car to work so that I could go to those jobs. Oh, God. What am I supposed to do with this? What am I supposed to do with this? Oh my god. Deal with it. This is gonna be a long one. Here's another long one. I like to talk, I guess. It's so cold in here. Okay, I worked at this freaking ice cream place, and I was really good at it. That was nice, and then I managed for 4 or 5 years. Like, right after I started working there. And they're really annoying, and they're really stubborn. And there was always drama going on because the managers were just always awful. McAfee, go away. I don't want Yahoo. Leave me alone. I really need to write stuff down or have something else because I'm bad at focusing. It's already 5 minutes. I'm gonna have to deal with that 5 minutes. Oh my god. But So the first problem I had is like the first couple days that I was there, I remember watching this old grumpy lady who was always coughing around and being hateful and just always so mad at everybody. And she was so short and so mad and just all the time. She was running down the middle aisles doing her thing, and then she'd just start getting grouchy. And I remember she was complaining because the caramel was out, so she went and she microwaved a bag of the caramel. And the freaking pump was broken, and nobody knew, and no one would order the piece to replace it. So she had to dump it in a little tray and set it out open for all the flies and everything to get into. And as soon as she got done pouring all the caramel into the freaking tray, she stuck her finger in like 3 knuckles deep and just went right in the middle of the aisle. And I just looked at her like she was crazy. Oh my god. And I'm like, that's when I decided I'm never gonna eat anywhere ever again. I can't trust you old people. What the heck? I can't trust the young people either. They're freaking crazy too. This is really annoying me. Okay. I'm just going on with everything that I remember. So first is freaking soda bibs are so heavy. They're really annoying to change, and oh my god, it really sucks. So if you go to a store and you say your soda's out and it takes them a little while, you better be freaking grateful, because those things are like more than 40 pounds each. And oh my god, if you get a Coke one, it's even heavier because it's bigger. I need to, let me just get a second to freaking write everything down that I can remember and rearrange it in order so I can actually know where to go. Okay, I wrote a lot of this down a long time ago. I just forgot about it. Okay, I'm gonna start off whenever, like before I started managing, I would drive myself there, and I got my license late, so it was like the first bit of time that I was driving around. So I took my dad's car and would park over there, and it was a Lincoln. So I'd park it, and then this dude who lives over at the apartments right next to it would just watch me every time that I came over to work and parked next to the trash can. And one of the days I went in and he was sitting out there and he was waiting in the parking lot. And I got out and I like almost ran inside the building, and he followed me in. And I got behind the counter, and then right before I was able to clock in, he started trying to talk to me. And then he was going on and on and on and being weird and asking and about stuff and being like, oh, that's a nice car, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I don't care, don't talk to me, leave me alone. And then he's like, how old are you? And I'm like 18, 19, and I was just like, I'm telling him I'm freaking 14 years old. And then he just goes, and then I go to the back room in the storage area, and I freaking sitting there for like 10 minutes, and he's still sitting out in front of the ice cream. And so what I remember is, like, I met my husband there, and he came in the back, and he was trying to get something, and noticed me standing there. And then him and one of the other guys went up front and said that he was making us uncomfortable. And I'm like, oh my god, you guys are awesome. And they freaking laughed. I'm like, oh my god. Because the other guy had a lady there too who he was also talking to and being weird. Just leave us alone. I'm not here to entertain you. What's wrong with you? And he still lived there, and he'd still, like, look out his freaking window and stare at the building. And then the freaking penny thing happened after that. So it's always, you panic whenever school buses come and park, because we had the easiest accessible parking lot, which is right next to a bank. So the kids' buses would come in and everybody'd start freaking out. and throwing down extra food, but you know, whenever they came in, they were ordering chicken. And they weren't ordering the 100 burgers that we threw down on the grill and now are sitting out and they're getting cold because we have a staging block and not an actual cabinet like all the other stores had. Because some reason they spent 4 years with that block and everybody's complaining constantly. My food's cold, my burger's cold, my cheese isn't melted, my patty's hard and cold, and they're telling us, well, don't cook them up until they get there. And it was so annoying because it was so heavy and you'd have to keep it full of water and it didn't even do anything to keep them warm. Okay, next is, there's this freaking native lady who, she wore the tightest bun, she had the biggest forehead, the greasiest face. She was so bitchy constantly. She'd just complain, and she'd come in every day. She'd get like a tea or a Coke and then a large hash brown. And every single time she'd be like, make sure you cook them, I'll wait, you make sure you cook them, make sure they're fresh and hot. And even if we would have them cooking and by the time she gets to the window, she would still complain. She would probably sit there, throw them in her mouth, go and have smoke come out of her mouth and say that it's still not hot enough. Just complain constantly. And the soda machines were always broken, so they were always giving out the wrong amount of syrup and the wrong amount of water and the wrong amount of carbonation. So they always tasted like crap. It's I'm like, wow, I guess I just really don't like soda anymore. No, that store's just awful, and I bet it's still bad. I haven't been back there in years. But it was always so bad. And then this same native lady came in and got a freaking burger. If you have a problem every single time you come into a store, stop going to the store. Go somewhere else. Though she came in and the bosses were getting on to us about wasting product and crap. So saying that they only give them napkins and ketchup and mustard and salt and pepper and whatever if they ask for it. So she gets up to the window and she's like, where's my fucking ketchup? And I say, well, you need to ask for some. You need to let me know that you wanted some. And she's just like, fuck you, and drove off. I'm like, oh my god. I never wanted to fight a lady so much until then, but it gets worse. I'm like, there's a lot of people that just all of a sudden I started having a lot of problems with people. People started like really ticking me off. What the hell is going on? Okay, and then we're really busy, but I'm doing what I can do. I'm busting my ass on the grill and dressing and doing fries and bagging all of the orders for drive and lobby. And then at the same time, the girl who's taking orders up front, she mentioned something about how she got fired from Walmart. I said, you got fired from Walmart? And she said, no, I got fired from McDonald's. And I said, you got fired from McDonald's too? She said, no, my aunt works at Walmart. And then later on, like the next day, we get a corporate complaint because a customer heard us complaining about getting fired from Walmart. And I'm saying, you sensitive bitch, what's your problem? Get your food, leave us alone. It has nothing to do with you, what's your deal? And then the district manager would come in, and I would be talking, and I would be asking for orders, I would be going around saying, where's this, where's this? And then every single time, anything I said, he'd look at me and say, you're being too loud. And I'm not loud. I'm not freaking crazy and that kind of person. I'm just doing my job. But I'm so annoyed because I'd be running around doing everything, but if I open my mouth to ask for something, I'm too loud. He gets what's coming. Okay, but everything was always gross, and all the machines were gross, and it was just never enough because it was so old, everything would just be falling apart faster than we could clean and fix stuff. So the floors, they have this nasty red-brown tiles that's just constantly picking up and they're moving around, and you can hear them clanking underneath your non-slip shoes. And then there'd be water coming up from underneath them because the drains are stupid. Let me just complain about them. There's a freaking removable sink. And then there's a pipe, and then there's a drop before there's the drain. So there's like 6 inches of space in between the pipe and the floor where it just decides it's not going to make it into the thing, and then it's going to start coming out and flooding the entire ground. So the ground's constantly wet, it's constantly gross and gray and nasty. And it's so annoying because I'd be walking around squishing around in wet socks and wet shoes. Enough where the paint of my shoes would start bleeding onto my feet and staining my toes. And you know you have to get down and pick up stuff, so anytime I had to get underneath a counter or a table, my knees would get wet because I have to go reach to the back to grab some buns, go into the freaking freezer, get some more fries. Okay, whenever you're running around, there's these spray sinks that are supposed to be running constantly, cleaning off the cups, and they flooded constantly. And they're all connected. If you turn on the one to wash your hands, then the one in the back to do the dishes depressurizes. So the same thing happens. If somebody turns on those middle spraying sinks, then somebody else goes to mess with the water, it'll slow down, and as soon as you turn the water off, it'll speed back up trying to catch up, and it'll spray everywhere, and it's constantly wet. Okay, let me complain some more. This is exactly how I remember this thing. There was a stupid section where there's a wall, and then there's a bunch of squares of sinks, and they're spraying. And then there's an outlet right next to it, because that's where the shake machine goes. So you'd be sitting there on your freaking machine, turning it on. You have to hold it for it to be turning on and for it to be moving. And because these freaking sinks spray so much, this outlet gets wet, the machine gets wet, the floor's wet, you're wet, and you're holding onto a metal cup to blend this freaking ice cream, and you're getting electrocuted the entire time. You'd be sitting there mixing like 100 shakes a day, and my hands and my arms and my wrist would hurt, and I'd feel it just pulling down here because my freaking arm would be burning all day long because this machine is electrocuting me constantly, and the managers knew it. They knew it. And then the freaking stores and the entire business knows that their machines are bad. But they don't send them because they'd rather just get it repaired. They'd send somebody out to look at it, and then they would never do anything about it. We would attempt to send machines off to go have them replaced with new ones, and we would get refurbished ones that would do it worse. And the bib machine is trying to keep the sodas cold, so they put it in the milk room. And there's an outlet in there, and that's where it started off with up until it was moved, like way later. So right behind all the crates and all the milks and all the condiments and all the other cold food, you have to squeeze in to get these bibs, and while moving them around. One of the days, the night crew left one of them empty, left a couple of them empty, so it would constantly go and it's trying to pull something out of a bag that's empty. So every time it freaking pushes air out, it's letting off freaking carbon monoxide off of the machine into the closed milk room. And I get there in the morning, and it takes me a couple minutes to be in there and being like, I really don't feel good, you know. And then I'm asking them, and nobody else is going in there, and I'm saying, does this smell funny to you? Is there something in here? Because the milk room usually stinks. It usually smells like rotten milk. So it's only me and my boyfriend at the time, and then the really sucky manager. And she's just on the computer the entire time. I'm setting up all the food, I'm setting up all the ice cream, and then he's working the drive-through while I'm trying to get everything dealt with in 30 minutes. And it's never full, and I always have to prep my own stuff because there's never any onions, there's never any jalapenos, there's never any tomatoes. Because the ones that we leave left over that are the undesirable bits, the tops and the bottoms and the weird bits of the tomatoes, they get used at night because they don't prepare their own stuff. So it was there, and I'm walking around and I go get a tray, and I'm just thinking, I should just fall. I should just let myself fall, you know? Like, I should just on the ground. And I'm just like, every time I go in here, I'm like not feeling good. And I'm pretty sure this is a point where before I knew I was pregnant. And she just said, just don't go in there. So the entire time, like my whole shift, it's just going more and more. It's going, and we're just not using the soda that's empty. And it's just sitting, building up. So the whole freaking room, and it's leaking out to the kitchen. So everybody's getting freaking hit with it. And this is like the second day of me being manager. And I'm just like, should we close the store? Should we close the store? Should we just tell everybody no, go home? No, just leave the door closed. But she went in her back room and she had her back door open and her window open. And she was just sitting on the computer the entire time while the rest of her, the freaking co-workers were getting freaking poisoned. I should have quit then. The lobby was like over 30 years old, and it was made with wood, and it was those dumb triangle booths, and it always looked gross and dirty because it was old, and you would just get complaints over and over again. Even if you go out there and clean everything as best as you can, they'd still complain about it being dirty because it's old. The storage room was just as big as this room, like times 2. It was like 15 by 20, and it had to hold like 6 shelves, and then whenever they would come in, it'd hold 6 more bunkers. And if we didn't get them out fast enough, they would have to sit there for 2 days before they'd get picked up by the next truck. And the freaking morning manager is supposed to go through, count everything, write it out, make sure everything's there, put it in the computer, say what's missing, say what's overstocked and everything. And you're supposed to go through, put it up, put it in the freezer, put it in the fridge, put it on the shelves, make sure that the front's stocked, make sure the cups are there, make sure you have enough room. Do not leave any boxes on the floor by the time the day shift gets there. Because, oh my god, you're going to get scrutinized for having a freaking cup and lids box on the ground while you're moving everything around. And another thing is, those ice machines do not get cleaned. It sits there, and the bottom of it leaks constantly. And right next to it's the water heater, and then a big spray, like, it's like a dog bath in there. It's the floor sinks where you have a freaking spout waist high, and it's just a drop with a tiny lip to keep everything in. That would flood constantly, but they would just leave nasty, stinky, dirty mops there, and you would get complained on so hard if you would change a mop head before the manager told you you could. So you'd just be pushing around stinky, dirty green mops. This is gonna be another long one. I'm trying to make it only 30 minutes. But a while in 2020, I left for like 6 months because 2020. So the people who stayed there was this young girl. She was like 14 or 15. And then there was this weird manager guy. and he was constantly making people uncomfortable. He gave me a bad vibe just by looking at him. I could tell that he's not somebody that I would trust, that I would want to be next to. It reminds me of my freaking stingy, weird uncle. So, they gave him a manager position for some reason, and while he was there, he would talk to this young girl the entire time and just be overly friendly with them. And it was like 3 of them. There was one started with an S, the other one, she was a little Hispanic lady, and they were all barely in high school. But then one of the days, he went up behind them in this tiny aisle, and she was facing her station, and he went up behind her and grazed her, and then grabbed her hips and pushed her over. And so she went and filed a whole report on him being handsy and touching her and being weird. And it doesn't stop there. So there was a manager that came over from one of the stores that was right next to a water park. From like Kingfisher. Oh, the freaking TV's going off. So she was a young lady. She was like mid-30s, and she was skinny, and she was pale and blonde. My husband hates her. But she was there right after the last manager left. And at the same time, the husband was like, well, I don't really like her. I don't care for her. And she was trying to be friendly with everybody, and she heard him say that. So from then on, she had something against him. But she was so fake about it. She'd be constantly smiling at you, constantly trying to just win you over. And she's just weird. Why are they just weird? Why can't you just be normal? You can't just be trying to be buddies with these 14-year-olds. Leave them alone. That's why you're only allowed to hire so many of them. Because freaking parents don't trust you around them. But she'd be talking to the freaking teenagers and stuff, and taking them to go eat out and stuff. I would never let my kids hang out with a middle-aged lady and to go hang out and freaking go to bars and stuff. And she would constantly getting people in trouble and giving them raises so that they would do stuff with her. But I sat at $8.90 up until I was like 20. Screw you. Stay away. Even whenever I was managing, the highest I got was $14.25. And then let me complain that any ice cream with a cookie inside it is so hard to scoop, and if you order a large, you're my worst enemy. And if you want it to be thick, you're a bad person. Because you have no idea how hard it is to scoop all that and blend it in like 2 minutes. And that's not a... Oh my god. It's like just sitting there trying to dig out of gel, but through ice cream. Because you weren't allowed to temper it right, because it'd get too warm and get wet. And if the ice cream melted too much, then it wouldn't cover as much space, and you would be giving away free ice cream, because melted takes up less space than it frozen. Oh my god, I'm talking so much. Here's another really long one. The drama keeps coming. Just wait until I get the guts to spill the big tea. So the fryers are awful, and the yogurt machine is awful. And even before I got there, there was a point where the yogurt machine didn't get cleaned, and it had maggots in it. So nobody who worked there while I worked there ever ordered yogurt, because it didn't get cleaned up until a couple years of me being there and us figuring out how to get somebody to clean it. Because you gotta let it run out, pour out the rest of it, fill it up with sanitary water, spill it out, get it to turn the pumps on, do all of this complicated stuff. It was so annoying. The fryer was so much easier, but oh my god, those buckets are so heavy. And you'd have to walk around the entire building because we only had a couple buckets to do that with. My god, I had chocolate ice cream before this, and now I'm like, I can't talk. He's gonna get here, me complaining, be like, add your 2 cents. So our work hours was 10 or 11 hours at a time. Because I would come in at 4 or 5 and not leave until 4 or 5, and then you would maybe get a 30-minute lunch. No breaks. I wish I had more breath to complain harder, but I'm not feeling it. So after my first one was born, and then before I got pregnant with my second one, I was doing morning shifts, and I had to deal with a whole lot of people leaving constantly because the boss that left her best friend in charge, and they had a falling out, so she was angry about it all the time. And she took over, and she was just so awful the entire time. Her name started with an M. And she brought and she hired her husband and she hired her son. And first we thought it was just because her son probably did something and she was punishing him for it by making him work for her. But she was just trying to she was being grubby and she was giving everybody raises. But her husband left for a while because they got in trouble for a lot of things coming up missing. And I remember one time my husband said, "Hey, where's your husband at?" And she said, "I don't know." And just didn't say anything else after that. I'm like, well, I feel like you're freaking covering up. That's a very suspicious answer. For you to just be so chill with not knowing where your husband's at. He never came back, I don't think. He probably did way later, but I don't remember that. But at the same time, she brought in some more Kingfisher people that she was buddies with from before they moved over. And they were awful too. So she put them on managing spots. And the entire time I'm arguing so hard about getting what I'm worth, getting paid what I'm worth, and getting out of $14 because I'm working so freaking long and I'm not breaking $1,000. How am I working so many hours and not making anything? But she brought in, I have nothing against this lady. She was really nice, she was sweet, she deserved everything. And she was a good one. I don't have anything against her, she was sweet. But she came in somehow, got an interview, got a job, and they hired her at $16.25 because they wanted her to take over a spot above me because a guy had just left to go be a prison guard. And we were just sitting because the manager gave me the key since I was the most experienced one there. And I was required to be at the store and have everything open and have everything running. But I wasn't getting key holder pay. And I called the store that the manager worked at, that his home base was. And I tried to get a hold of them a lot. And I never got an answer. And he knew me my name because I'd been there long enough. And my husband had been there like 4 years before me, so they knew who we were. But I never got that raise. I remember like having to take a shift that was right above hers, and I barely got 15. I'm like, why do I come here every day? And I feel like I just hate life. And there's no reason, because I'm just working. and I hate everything. I can't see how somebody works over 10 years at fast food. You have to have some great bosses or some great pay. Because there's no way I'd still be there right now, not making anything. It was the least amount I've ever made, but it was somehow like, even back then, just rent was a lot cheaper, car was cheaper, and everything was cheaper. It was the best we were doing. We were still struggling a lot. Because everything kept on happening. We were struggling so hard. And we left, and he got a better job, and I followed later on to that same job. And then he got sick, and we lost a lot, and then I had to move and lost a whole lot. Oh my god. I'm talking so much. Yeah. But that lady, Lynn, she ended up moving to Florida. Back to where her dad was. I still have her Snap, but I wouldn't bother getting a hold of her because she's like a whole lot older than me, so I don't really have a lot to say, but she was really nice. There was a time whenever I came in, and like, I'm not gonna waste the money to do something, but whenever they would mess up orders, they would put it on the side for in case somebody else actually ordered that item. So she messed up a chocolate shake after I told her that I really wanted one but couldn't afford it, and she gave it to me because she messed it up. I'm like, oh my god, lady, you're so nice. Oh my god. Let me just go through a whole thing. This is gonna be another one. Just be like, I'm not gonna remember it, but just put nice people stories. I might remember that later, but the wholesomeness, there's very few of them. Okay. I'm not even gonna bother cutting this down, so if you're here, oh my god, you're a real one. Or maybe I got famous, and you're just seeing where all the crazy came from. It's from my lack of eyebrows. I lost them in a shark attack. A tornado came and ripped off my roof and my eyebrows. I was in track and I tripped and I skid marked my eyebrows off. When I had my firstborn, this one fell out, and then my second one, this one fell out. My sister got eyebrows though. Both of them. They're the lucky ones. They got eyebrows. Oh my god. Why didn't y'all share them? What the heck? Okay, so it was raining one time. Let me go on. And I got out of my car, and as I was clocking in, as I was about to go into the building, I slid and I slammed my knee on the concrete. And I started bleeding on my pant leg. And I walked in and I clocked in and I cleaned myself up as good as I could, but I couldn't walk. I could not move. So I was walking around and I'm like, don't freaking cry. Don't cry in front of anybody. Don't freaking cry. But I couldn't not because it hurt so and it was so bruised. And I was like, man, can I go home? And they almost told me no. And I'm like the entire time I'm going against myself, because if this is something, if I screwed my knee up so bad and if it messes with anything, I need to have a report on. But my manager kept refusing to write a report because he's like, what, are you gonna sue us? Are you gonna sue us? No, I just want my insurance to cover me if it's a work accident and my knee is messed up and I need it realigned. Because I couldn't walk. one of the times when I was ordering stuff, I had to go through and we never had enough soap, so I went in, and they usually do it by quantity, so I put in, I need 3 soaps. So the next day it came in, they sent us 3 quantities of 10 soap dispensers. And I have no idea what fulfillment person thought that any store needed 30 soap dispensers. Who okayed that? Who went through and had no problem packing all of these soap dispensers and shipping them off like there was no problem? You think we're gonna break one every day of the month? Okay. Alright. When I had my firstborn, I left. I stopped managing. I stopped working because I could not stop being violently sick the entire time. I don't feel like I should have to have an excuse, but I freaking could not live. It was awful. I was constantly sick, constantly throwing up, and freaking coughing blood. I went, oh my god, this is gonna be so unrelated. But I went to the freaking ER for throwing up blood, like a freaking lot, and it was very concerning. So I went in, and the only thing they did was gave me IVs, and then they gave me something through it, and then they didn't tell me what it was, and I was sitting in there with my sister-in-law, and they turned the lights off, and it was dark in there, and I was sitting on the bed, and I was too weak to move, so I was just sitting there, and it started making me shake, and I started panicking, and my head was hurting, and I was getting nauseous, and I started crying, and I was sobbing, and I was just sitting there on that bed because I couldn't move, I couldn't sit up, I couldn't do anything, I couldn't talk. I was just freaking out. And she was sitting there on her phone talking to her dad or somebody. And then my husband was at their house watching her kids because they thought that since she had a baby that she would be the best person to vouch for me on my end, but she's another woman and it would have been better if I took my husband there. But as soon as the old doctor walked in and he seen me crying, he said, "Oh, it's not so funny, is it?" And I don't know if I brought this up before, but oh my god, I have such a complaint because I looked him up one time a long time ago, and if I would have complained on him like within a year of that happening, then I would have been able to do something. But this is why I'm so mad at myself for not doing something rather than doing something. Because every time I'm gonna get myself angry again. Every time I wait and I don't do something that I feel like I should have done, it messes me up. I should have complained on that house person. I should have complained on that doctor. I should have complained harder about those 3 managers. And I should have complained elsewhere. But sitting and not complaining and not doing something hasn't gotten me anywhere. So I might just spill the beans every time I think of something. Because I need to heal. I've been working on it my whole life. I'm doing it solo. Freaking. Here's me this is just gonna be work. It's gonna be work, bitch. It might not show up because I talk for people my age with my mindset, so deal with it. If you're offended, go away. I don't want to be your friend. But after I came back, after having my firstborn, because we couldn't afford the bills, I came back after 2 months, and I was still nursing, and I had a hand pump. I had a Medela hand pump, and it was small, and I had those 2.5 ounces containers, and then I had my tiny purse. And this store has 1 girl bathroom, 1 boy bathroom, and there's 1 stall in each of them. So on my 30-minute break, I would go into the bathroom and try to hand pump as much as I could, and I was an overproducer. I filled up 3 freezers the entire time I nursed with him. But I wouldn't have enough time to pump because an old lady would show up or somebody else would come to the bathroom, and I would have to close everything down, put it up, hide it in a little lunch bag, put it at the top of the shelf in the milk room, hoping that nobody throws it away. And then I'd have to go back to work. I'd be flipping burgers, and my boobs would hurt so bad constantly, and my arms would hurt, and moving would make me achy. And I'd just be sore all day long because I didn't have enough time to do anything. And then after that, I was like, well, this isn't gonna work. So I left. I lasted there for a long time. Up until I was like 3 months pregnant with my second one, which was like, November of 23. There he is. But the last time that I was there, and whenever I had to go there, I told them that I needed longer than 30 minutes, and they kept telling me no, and I told them I'm going to take longer than 30 minutes. And they told me no. And then I complained about it after I had my next baby to the consultant, and she said, well, you should have sued them. I should have.